Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay. I just ran up here. How Sweden is becoming insanely rich. Now, this was 6 hours ago, so not gonna post it today or tomorrow. Maybe like late tomorrow. So what is it? Something up here in the thumbnail? The link to the original video. Hi, Swedes, or everyone. Link to the original video, top of the description from Fern. Let's get started. Discord below that.
Prime Minister of Sweden. On the 12th of January 2023, the Deputy Prime Minister of Sweden made an announcement about very exciting, enormously significant rocks.
This is really an important day for Sweden and for the whole of the European Union.
Sweden's public mining company, LKAB, revealed that one of their mines in the north had found something huge. Kiruna is the largest, most modern iron ore mine on the planet. It produces around 80% of all the iron ore mined in the EU.
The ore here in Kiruna contains more than just...
Jesus, I thought he was going to say of
iron ore mined in the EU.
The ore here in Kiruna contains more than just iron.
Rare earth metals have been called the quintessential symbol for the emerging, shifting global order. They power our technology, our militaries, and they are key in the transition to clean energy.
Today, the EU is way too dependent on other countries for these materials.
Until that day, Europe
Her English is
mined
amazing.
any rare earth metals. Sweden now found 1 million tons of them in the Peergeja deposit. This discovery stands to change Sweden and also the relationship between Europe and other world powers forever.
China supplies actually 98% of rare earths.
Another big jackpot for India.
Southern Africa's rare earth minerals.
Australia is the world's third largest producer of rare earths.
The United States has fallen behind in the production of critical rare earth minerals.
Canada's got a good amount too.
Rare earth metals are a group of 17 elements: scandium, yttrium, and 15 lanthanides. You don't need to remember any of that though. To understand their importance, let's just look at a few examples. This is you. As you're enjoying the comfort of your home, you're interrupted by a notification. A set of miniature coils makes a paper-thin magnet vibrate, while another set of magnetic coils animate the diaphragm of your phone speaker to produce a sound that's loud and clear. To create such a small action, we need magnets created with the rare earth metal neodymium.
Sounds familiar.
Your favorite mukbang ASMR channel just released a new video, so you put on your headphones for maximum enjoyment. We don't judge. Your headphones too require neodymium. The video that you're watching comes to life on a screen that requires gadolinium, lithanium, and yttrium. What sounds like me and my imaginary friends playing D&D in my mom's basement every weekend actually allows you to see juicy, vivid colors without excessively draining the battery. The video is transmitted to you via a fiber optic cable, bringing ones and zeros over hundreds, maybe thousands of kilometers. To make sure the signal isn't lost over long distances, we require erbium-doped fiber amplifiers to boost the signal. Okay, you're done with your video, head outside and hail a cab. You're no peasant and go for the Uber Black. Its engine requires neodymium magnets to convert electricity into motion. The battery of the taxi has partially been charged by wind turbines or maybe even nuclear energy. The wind turbines require powerful magnets to convert motion into electricity using almost a full metric ton of, you guessed it, good old neodymium. Also around 180 kilograms of dysprosium. The reactor's control rods are laced with europium. The taxi goes to the airport where you board an aircraft that will take you straight to Ibiza. Super Snake made you go. Parts of the aircraft's body are made from aluminium scandium alloy. Light, durable, and resistant to high temperatures. We could go on forever, but we won't for watch time. These examples barely scratch the surface of what rare earth metals are used for. But it should be clear, they are indispensable for our modern applications, our modern lives. However, for all the benefits they provide, rare earths are sneaky and they hide well. Mining them commercially is difficult. You have to sieve through a lot of ore just to extract a little. What makes it even more complicated is that some countries have a lot of them and some a lot less.
So Spain produces 100% of strontium on the planet.
A lot less. Europe imports around 98% of all of its rare earth metals from China. Even europium, which is used for anti-counterfeit watermarks on euro bills, comes entirely from China. All that is an enormous problem and the main reason Per Jäger is such a big deal. In the 1980s, the then Supreme Leader of China, Deng Xiaoping, said, "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earth metals." By 2010, China had suffocated the competition and acquired an effective monopoly on rare earth elements, providing over 90% of the global supply.
I'm curious where in China
bargained for exclusive mining rights in several African countries to further tighten its grip on the market. This is severely oversimplified, but often the country even bargained for exclusive mining rights in several African countries to further tighten its grip on the market. This is severely oversimplified, but often it kind of maybe went like this.
That's a shame of being like a much more underdeveloped countries, a lot in Africa, in that they have so many resources, but they don't have the infrastructure to capitalize, extract, sell, capitalize on those resources. You need the infrastructure, you need stability in the country, you need, political stability, military stability, you need ways to get it out and to process it. And Africa is just so far behind on this stuff. And so as Africa improves its technology and its country's stability, by the time it can do this itself, so much of it is going to be extracted through these deals, because it's obviously got to be really tempting for a more developing country like the Congo. Must be really tempting to take this large sum of money now and let them mine your rare earth, where you would have made so much more money if you just poured it, processed, sold it, mined it yourself. It's just they don't have all the capabilities. So
that's a sweet little mine you got there. I see your city lacks a train station. Also, that harbor looks kind of rusty. How about we help you out there free of charge, and you just give us those weird rocks? This way.
So China is to minerals like the USA is to oil.
China got to control.
Oh, nice oil you got there. You want this free stuff?
Even more of the world's rare earth stock. Extracting rare earth metals can be difficult. It requires a lot of resources and is often very polluting. They can come with trace amounts of radioactive thorium and radium. You need these open air pools to separate the elements when you take them out of the earth. But that process can produce mountains of mildly radioactive waste. For example, here you have the Baogang Steel and Rare Earth Complex in Baotou, Inner Mongolia. Next to it, you can find a spectacular man-made lake. For decades, it has been used for rare earth tailings. Since then, it continuously contaminated the groundwater.
Guys, he didn't make a mistake there.
Steel and Rare Earth Complex in Baotou.
Obviously this is, I believe there's a Chinese province called Inner Mongolia that is in China, so.
To Inner Mongolia. Next to it, you can find a spectacular man-made lake. For decades, it has been used for rare earth tailings. Since then, it continuously contaminated the groundwater, with brutal consequences. There are numerous so-called cancer villages in the area. Today, most of the homes are abandoned. By practicing lenient, non-existent environmental policies, China was able to keep prices low enough to annihilate most of their competition. For decades, the country provided the world with a cheap and plentiful supply. In 2021, it controlled 2/3 of all mining, 85% of all refining, 90% of all extracted metal, and 93% of all magnets. But that monopoly also gave the country great political power. Since the late 2000s, China's export policies caused several massive price swings on the rare earth market. Some countries accused China of using rare earth exports as a political weapon.
The EU, US and Japan have asked the World Trade Organization to rule on a dispute with China over Beijing's restrictions on exports of raw materials.
A dispute over rare metals, which has been building for years, has come to a head.
In 2012, the US, EU and Japan even sued China over supposedly abusing its monopoly.
Now, if China would simply let the market work on its own, we'd have no objections. But their policies currently are preventing that from happening.
Especially the US was getting increasingly worried. You see, next to iPhones and wind turbines, rare earths are needed for something else: advanced weaponry. To produce a F-35 fighter jet, you need around 420 kilograms of rare earth elements. A Virginia-class nuclear submarine requires almost 10 times that amount. Many modern missile guidance systems need rare earth metals. So do night vision devices, communications equipment, navigation systems, stealth technology, drones, satellites, the list goes on. Basically, a modern army cannot function without them. Over several decades, China quietly built up the ability to choke the military capabilities of the countries it doesn't like. This is such a huge problem that in 2019, the US Department of Defense started investing tens of millions in commercial rare earth production for the first time since the Manhattan Project. And today, US allies are equally concerned. First and foremost, many EU countries. The West had a collective, stark realization. These are not merely minerals. They present a serious geopolitical risk. And this is where Sweden steps in to save the day. Per Geijer is the European Union's major breakthrough in reducing its dependency on China.
Hey, Sweden, you're awesome. You know, I never noticed it, but you're a beautiful country, and we should be friends, the US and Sweden now. I don't know what it is that makes me think this now, but like, we should be friends. You want to mine together in your country? Just give you some freedom. The thing about China that is, I think, a giant advantage of them is that the United States has been like the most powerful country since 1945. And like China, like they had, you know, I think they have a long view of history. I have a lot of sympathy in the history of China of what European countries did to them. Doesn't mean I'm going to excuse like internment camps of Uyghurs or, you know, not caring about the radioactive risks to their own citizens. But like they have a underdog drive. They're really not being an underdog so much anymore. And that like they see the future as like ahead of them. Like their big China moment, I feel like they all know like is yet to come. Maybe it'll collapse, not collapse, but maybe it won't be as much. And I think that's a big motivating factor that they're like, yeah.
Per Geijer finally makes mining rare earth metals commercially viable on the European continent. The deposit knocks out multiple minerals with one bird. It is close to an existing mine, reducing the need to build entirely different infrastructure. Plus, it is filled with both iron and apatite. As opposed to having to seep through lots of useless rock, the deposit also gives you both of those in the process. Iron is nice, but apatite is even nicer. Nice. The mineral is a great source for phosphorus, but apatite is even nicer. The mineral is a great source for phosphorus, another critical raw material that the EU currently has to import. According to the mining company, Per Geijer has at least 1 million tons of rare earth elements. To put that number in perspective, EU demand totaled just 1,400 tons in 2020. It is projected to reach 6,500 tons by the next decade and as much as 10,000 tons by 2050. These rather low numbers, however, do not account for the demand for already finished goods. For example, the EU currently imports 16,000 tons of magnets per year.
That's not to scale, right? Covering... No, I'm joking.
Which are made up... The EU currently imports 16,000 tons of magnets per year, which are made up of roughly 1/3 rare earth metals. It is not known which rare earth metals are in the mine exactly, or how much it will ultimately cost to mine them. But it is certain that the deposit will be valuable. It will change things, both for the public Swedish mining company and also for the entire European continent. Let's dare to look a decade or so into the future for a minute. Some of LKAB's biggest clients are European car manufacturers. Close to Kiruna, you can find new factories belonging to Volkswagen, Peugeot and others.
Peugeot?
Magnets made from per-Jaeger rare earth metals fuel the transition from combustion to electric. Wind turbines lined up in the North Sea spin with Swedish neodymium-fueled magnets. China's political power over Europe in the arena of special rocks diminishes. Sweden is richer than ever.
I saw a lot of, I saw Asia mentioned, I saw Australia mentioned, I saw Africa mentioned. Not all, but like parts of them. Europe obviously mentioned, North America mentioned a little, but nothing about South America. I'd imagine the Amazon is full with undiscovered, oil. I know oil is slowly going out of fashion. I think it's still going to be needed for decades. But, South America is an enormous continent. And I'd imagine they'd have a lot of stuff, too. I'm surprised they weren't mentioned a little. Love you guys. Hope you're all doing well. I would appreciate any and all comments, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.